Hi, this is Jim, and I'm the New Hampshire Rock Guy, and we're out on another one of my mining adventures. Wow, look at this spar here. It's just falling out of the mine walls, and there's so much more to see. Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Feel all 6 sides of the tourmaline crystal. What would be west into the Connecticut River Valley and the mountains of Vermont.
World-class beryl crystals, both aquamarine and golden.
If you look hard enough, you'll find something it's facing.
Get ready for a fantastic journey of this incredible mine.
Okay, this is very typical, just to keep your fly rock down so you didn't be ruining everything else around it.
When you're blasting.
Yeah. If you're, most of them were out enough in the open or either underground, so you were confined. But if you had something like you say, there were a lot of these on the top, well, gee, you got a blast and that goes out, you've got to be off at a distance. Otherwise, you're going to be dodging flying rock and so forth. Because, of course, a lot of guys loaded. Back when they started, a lot of people didn't have the background, and they load heavy, and that really created everybody heading for cover.
Yeah, so we're here with, you're a blaster, right? You,
Right. Learning the hard way.
Learning the hard way,
But
so you've done it. Yeah.
But I did, yes, quite a lot of billing. And underground as well too, surface. But the thing is, I just never loaded heavy. I'd rather be light. I got little bigger pieces, but then they got better. The mica wasn't fractured so much either.
Ah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Whereas the spar, it generally didn't matter too much because most of your spar was ground up anyway.
So these are just discarded or used tires?
Tires. Yeah.
And as you said, the holes were put in so that a cable could be fed through.
Right, they'd set them all in and they're all in the band. And
There's a lot of weight to one of these.
Oh, when you stretch that out, I said they're at least about 12 by 12 feet.
Wow.
And you carry it in the front of your backhoe or loader and set an end down and then kind of go ahead slowly, and because you can't break up your wires that you've already got loaded.
Be very careful. That makes sense. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about just the idea of blasting. So I've my knowledge is that there was different grades of dynamite, like 20% or 60% or 40.
Most of it for the general pegmatite, so for 40% dynamite. And I used to, when I dealt with the fellows that came up from North Carolina, the first thing they asked me, they said, "What percent dynamite did you use?" And I'm not making fun of their droll, but that would come into the picture. Well, I use 40% dynamite. Pretty sure if you're talking with them, you'd be going to talk like
and
that.
And you'd be talking like that,
Right.
dynamite. Oh, that's
But
funny.
they came up and they operated after my uncle and his partner ended up in the Army going to Europe. And this group came up from Spruce Pine, North Carolina, and leased the mine, the Sargent mine. And they were operating for the latter part of the war, up at the Sargent. Then they left. And they were both up at the Sargent mine in Claremont, and they were down beside the river at the Smith mine that was down along the river that came through and going to Claremont.
Yeah, I don't know that mine. It's in Claremont,
right,
but closer to the Connecticut.
Yeah, it's down in the area. Well, if from the Sargent mine, if you just went off through the woods down to the right and down till you got to the, I'm trying to think of the name of the river now, but offhand, that's where it was, and it flows all the way over through Claremont to the Connecticut River.
Okay. That period of time when the gentlemen from South Carolina, Spruce Point, are operating, when the war ended, did they just stop mining? Did it come to an abrupt end, or did it continue?
No, it went on. I think the last extended, the war ended in 45? A lot of it was still going on. The segments of both armies.
Yeah, you got the East and West
right, but some of them in the area, like the Japanese and those people out in the islands, they didn't get the message that the war was over, and they were still fighting. It was causing problems for the Americans we're not fighting. We're trying to stay back and not get involved because,
Yeah, today we could text everybody and it'd be
Right.
over within minutes.
yeah, but these fellows had gone into the jungles and hidden, and then they weren't coming out, and they were still ready to fight.
So the need for mica was a strategic mineral. It was
Right.
needed for a lot of war purposes. We mentioned one about the lubrication in a crankcase oil, but it was used a lot in electronic
Electronics,
components,
right.
huge amount, because electronics were coming of age,
Right.
aircraft were maturing
Right,
and
it
coming
was.
of age. So mica is used in a lot of different places, and I even believe that in the early handsets, what we spoke into had a piece of mica, and that's what took our acoustic waves and turned it into the electrical waves.
Right.
So it's indispensable. It's in your microwave. It's in your hair dryer. It's in every wall of your house and joint compound,
Right.
because again, when you grind it up, it's an incredible lubricant, just like graphite, right? The lubricant
Well,
you use for
right.
very, very similar.
Yeah.
Um,
But this very fine was that put in paints. The automobile, when they had that metallic paint,
yeah,
a lot of it was mica.
mica that made it. Yeah, that's one of the big uses.
Right.
Did you visit, or it might have been Dale Johnson told me about the grinding plant down in Medford, Massachusetts, and the guy that came out looking like the Tin Man every day. Did you see that personally too? Or?
Right. They were, the one we took our mica to was down near Springfield, Mass.
Oh.
Just before you take one of the roads there to the right and head up toward the Mohawk Trail going off
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
direction.
out to west. Yeah.
Going out west, right. And I remember the guys coming out of that. At the end of the day, there happened to be a pond right near the grinding plant. Those guys, like you said, didn't have a T-shirt or anything else on. They'd been working in the grinding plant, and they were like silver from here up.
That's amazing.
And they'd go down and go in the water, and there'd be a glaze of purple on the surface of the water just from
What came off of them.
what came off of them.
Oh, and then did they have shower on site too, or did they just wash off?
Oh
in the
no, I think they have a
pond?
shower on site. You generally could go into a building or something and wash off. But the big problem was a lot of them still didn't wear their mask like they should. And then you had that silicosis problem.
Right, right. Just like, anything that you breathe the dust in long enough, I'm sure, but, certainly there's the coal mining, we hear about it, and in the mica, you hear about it, and in beryllium. But we're going to talk about beryllium in our next segment because we're getting close to the end of this one. So let's just conclude about your experience of dynamiting. You not only have done it in the mining area, but you would just blast. Somebody had a rock in the way
Well,
and they needed to blast it.
typical around here in New England, we grow rocks. And they come up in the soil and they get out in your field and they jam up your machinery and so forth. And so you go around, drill them and shoot them, but that's where you'd use this more. Because you
keep
didn't
it-
want to spread it out over the field because then you end up picking up a lot of small rocks.
Right. Oh yeah.
And if you plowed it, and of course in the plowing, well, you get these things are like glacial erratics. I mean, it's probably part of a ledge,
Right.
but also it got uncovered, it got scoured off. This one was bigger and probably
This
the
was
rest-
perfect for piling up the mats.
well, it was
It's a
good to
great
be able to
storage place.
set it over and not having it so. But right now, I don't know. That one's probably not in great condition, but it would work. You'd have to do
Yeah.
a little work on it.
And just one last thing while we're standing here, John. This to me is a well cover, right?
Now, that was the size. They was chiseled out by hand
So
for
just
the size of the bucket, and then to get a bucket up through. But also, you could drop your bucket down the well on the end of a rope,
yeah.
get it to tip over, fill with water, and then pull it up. You could have a one of the winch-like things built.
Yeah.
Crank.
Yeah.
You know,
But so these would be called hand dug wells, and
Yeah.
it was a very common way to get water.
right.
So they were 15, 20 feet, whatever it took to then fill up and have a reserve. How long might it take to get a nice hole like that in a rock like that? Do you have any idea?
Well, that's probably more of mica
Schist?
like a shale, a schist type rock.
So that's a little bit easier than a
little bit
granite.
right.
Yeah, a
You'd
lot
have-
easier.
Have to chip at it, not be in a hurry, otherwise you'd end up with two pieces and have to start over.
Yeah, wouldn't want to do that. Well, thank you very much again for this wonderful knowledge. It's Jim Pecora, the Mica Mine Schoolhouse,
Yes,
and you
Mike.
can find us on YouTube at Pecora's Mica Mine Schoolhouse. Actually, if you simplest thing is just use hashtag Pecora Mica Mine Schoolhouse all together, and then you'll get a whole series of the videos come up and the channel as well. So thank you, John, and we're going to talk a little bit more in our third segment,
Yeah.
and we'll take you and tour around a little bit more of what we've got here.
Well, if you wanted to see that dynamite